Okay, so why do so few businesses have a supply chain strategy? I'm amazed. It hasn't changed much over the last 20 years. What I'm going to show you this week is how to put a strategy together really quickly, and that's coming right up. Okay, so what I'm going to share this week is actually a short presentation that I gave at a recent conference, because it's really frustrating. I see so many businesses that struggle to put a supply chain strategy together, and it's actually not that hard. So I'm going to race through this. There's quite a bit of content, but there's going to be enough here for you to actually put a strategy together. So first of all, what I often see in businesses is that they have a great vision and mission. And you know, very often there's these photographs of people looking out over the landscape or breaching whales or something like that. And it's all about the great things they're going to do in the world and the great things they're bringing to the market. But that doesn't always translate down to the people actually working in supply chain. So here we've got a whole bunch of geese, Greyland geese I think they are, flying in a neat formation. It's rather like the senior executive team coming back from a 3-day offsite, and they've actually worked out the vision and mission and the objectives for the business, and they know exactly what's happening. But I suppose the question in my mind is, does Jim, who does the product picking in the warehouse, really understand what's happening? And that's the big gap in supply chain strategies. People, you know, develop it way up here, and it's very conceptual, and it's hard for people to understand lower down in the organization at the coalface. So let me show you how I develop strategies that really do work, and I do this for a lot of our consulting clients. So first of all, let me just point out that a lot of businesses are burning money in the supply chain without having a strategy. There was a study done years ago that actually identified that glitches in the supply chain cause an average fall of 8.6% in shareholder value. So, you know, a strategy is so important to keep people focused on doing the right things so that you don't get these supply chain glitches. And in recent surveys that we've done, the results have been the same over about the last 20 years or so. We ask people, does your business have a supply chain strategy? And if you don't, do you think it impacts your business performance? And if we look at these charts, only 39% of businesses actually have a supply chain strategy. It's documented, people understand it. And of all of those people who don't have one, guess what? 65%, yep, it's 65%, believe that that impacts the performance of their business. Well, put one together. You know, it's not rocket science. So there's a couple of tips that I'll give you on putting a strategy together. But first of all, I'd just like to share what I believe are the really important components of supply chain and why a strategy is so important. And let me just build this diagram for you. So it's a Venn diagram. We've got 3 interlocking circles here. And it's about getting alignment between the business strategy, the financial strategy, and the service strategy. And why is that so important? Well, where these circles interlocked, you see, if we get the strategy aligned, business strategy aligned, and the financial alignment, we get very happy shareholders. If we get the service and financial alignment right, we get very happy customers. And if we get the strategic and service alignment right, we get a happy team because they know what they're supposed to be doing. And I've just simplified it by putting 3 things against each of these elements of the strategy. In terms of the business strategy, we've got to have clarity around that. We've got to develop it if it's you know, immature, and we've got to constantly calibrate it and circle back and make sure that it's right. In terms of the financial alignment, you know, from a supply chain perspective, I think there's 3 big ticket items there. One is warehousing, one is transport, and one is procurement. And then on the service alignment, the 3 things there to focus on are having a customer service policy, an inventory policy, having a good planning process, and making sure that we have good inventory management practices in place. So look, we could have a list of 50 things that you have to get right in the supply chain, but I reckon those 3 interlocking circles with 9 elements around the outside are the crux of it. And if you get those right, not only will your supply chain actually be, you know, in best in breed, best in class, which is the top 20% of performers, but we see amongst our clients, if they get this right, they're in the top 2%. That's really the cream of the cream. And so the simple way that I explained this at a recent conference is that you have to start from the top, you work down, and you come up with 3 simple objectives for your supply chain. Not 8, not 12. I see so many supply chain strategies that have, 16 pillars that we're going to focus on. Why do I think that's too much? Well, it's just too much for people to focus on. We can't be trying to keep 16 balls in the air at once. So 3 or 4 is generally the number that I recommend. And we want to come from the top down. And how do we decide those 3 objectives? Well, what's the organizational objectives? What's the business objectives? What does the business expect of our supply chain? And when I'm helping clients put supply chain strategies together, I actually start with the senior executive team and go around and understand what the business strategy is and what they expect of the supply chain and what they believe the supply chain performance is like and what they'd like it to be. And so with that overarching business objective, it's not then too hard to drop down a level and work out what should be 3 or 4 supply chain objectives. Now, I'll give you a tip. There's generally one around cost, there's generally one around service, and there's probably one around quality. And very often I say to people, in many industries, there's definitely a 4th. And if I said, mining or heavy industry, you'd know immediately what I meant, and that is safety. So 3 or 4 objectives should be enough for most businesses. Now, the trick here is to articulate these objectives in such a way that they're really meaningful to Jim, who's picking the product in the warehouse. It shouldn't be something too conceptual. So let's think about cost for a moment. What could we have as a simple objective around cost? It might be lowest total cost always. What could we have as an objective around service? Never any back orders. So think about that for a moment. What does that mean to people working in the supply chain? Never any back orders. If I'm working in inventory, it means I've got to have my inventory accuracy right. I've got to get the cycle counting right. If I'm working in procurement or inventory management, I've got to make sure that we've always got the right amount of stock. If I'm picking in the warehouse or dispatching, I've got to make sure that the orders are always 100% in full. So coming up with these little sort of catchphrases around the objectives that really articulate the purpose behind them is so important for people right, up and down the organization to fully understand. So step 1 is to come up with those 3 objectives. So here I've got some examples, always in stock, lowest prices and quality products. Once we've done that, then we can start developing the tactics. Now, what I see in so many businesses is they kind of start at this level. We need a new transport management system. We need a new warehouse management system. We need new warehouses. Why? You need to work out the objectives first. And then if those things actually directly support achieving those objectives, then they make sense. But otherwise, they don't. So that's why we've got to start from the top. So always in stock, what sort of things, what sort of enablers or initiatives do you think we'd have to focus on to make sure that we're always in stock? Great inventory management, sales and operations planning, great inventory accuracy. There's 3 things that we might focus on. What about lowest prices? If we want the lowest prices to our customers, what do we have to focus on? We have to buy well. So when we're buying product in or manufacturing it, we've got to make sure that we get that price down. We've got to have the movement through the supply chain as low cost as possible. So you see then how we're really focusing in on what matters from a tactical perspective. And then of course the final thing is that once we've developed the tactics, we need to develop the measures. So you don't need hundreds of KPIs in your supply chain. You probably need, under each of those objectives, maybe 3. And so let's have a think about always in stock. What might be the KPIs that we measure? Okay, if you're a retailer, you'd be measuring on-shelf availability, or you'd be counting gaps on the retail shelves. You'd be monitoring your availability in the warehouse. You'd be monitoring your supplier performance in full on-time delivery. So again, it's all aligned. If we've got an objective of always being in stock, then we need to have some enabling processes and technologies to make sure that we're doing that, and we've got to measure the right things to ensure that we're achieving that as well. So look, in a nutshell, that is how simple it is to put a supply chain strategy together. It's not difficult. You can do it on a page. So I hope that's been helpful to you. If you jump onto our blog, I'll put links below. There's other videos here on the channel about supply chain strategy. There's definitely some articles, so I'll put a link below in the blog, a link to the blog. And of course, you know how it works. Do comment. I personally reply to all the comments. If you find this video useful, do like it, do share it. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And if you hit the bell, you'll be notified when we get new videos coming out. And they generally come out every Wednesday. See you soon.